So I decided to do this video because coming from Southern California to St. Louis, Missouri, I experienced this immediate culture shock. Walking around campus and not seeing other people that look like me gave me this bad impression of what diversity at SLU looks like. It's not till now, 5 years later, that I've noticed SLU has a lot more diversity than students tend to realize. But for some reason, we tend to segregate ourselves and through that segregate each other. I think there's some invisible barrier, whether that's culture, ethnicity, background, language, whatever, that prevents us from even taking that first step in becoming friends or continuing friendships. So I was really curious as to what causes these barriers and if other people saw diversity in the same way I did. So I thought the best way to do that was by asking you.
That's where we get tricky, especially at SLU.
Do I think SLU is diverse? The sad part is, the answer to this question will differ based on the race of the person you ask this question
Correct.
to.
For me, coming from such a small white school, I see SLU sometimes as having a lot more diversity than what I'm used to, but when I have conversations with others who say that this diversity at SLU is much less than what they're used to, it kind of puts things in perspective of how badly I never had diversity in my life before. So for me, yes, I do see it at SLU in certain aspects.
Creo que SLU sí tiene diversidad, pero no están mezcladas. Es como separación de diversidad.
To be quite frank, I think St. Louis University is really, really diverse, yes, but at the same time, I think SLU has this kind of issue of integration amongst cultures.
I think SLU does. Whether people, I guess, interact with each other a lot is another question, but I think SLU does have diversity.
Diversity is the inclusion of different ethnic groups. When I mean by inclusion, I mean like interactions between different ethnic groups that we lack in St. Louis University's campus.
My freshman year, I gave an explanation in front of my entire chemistry class of how an atom bomb works. This white dude corners me after class outside of Panera, and he's joking with me, and he keeps just making this joke about how he's gonna call Homeland Security on me. He's like, oh, but you're a terrorist, a domestic terrorist. I'm gonna call Homeland Security. Only person laughing at it. It's obnoxious, man.
Yeah. One racial experience I've had moving back to St. Louis from Jordan was my Caucasian friends, who are still my friends till this day, in the beginning called me Pedro, even because I look Latin American, even though I'm not.
Oh, let me see a picture of her. So I say, of course, I got you. Take out my phone, and I pull up a picture of my girlfriend, who is white. And she looks at me, very befuddled, very confused, and says, oh, I didn't know your girlfriend was white. What do you mean? And she says, oh, I thought you went for brown girls, Just because I'm brown doesn't mean I have to date a brown girl.
I definitely get, and I'm sure a lot of other students get, the classic, where are you really from question. I'm from California. No, where are you really from? And then I'm like, you mean my ethnicity? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, I'm Mexican. They're like, oh, so you're from Mexico. I'm like, no, I'm from California.
And when I tell people I'm Colombian, there's two questions that they ask me. One, do I know Pablo Escobar? And two, have I watched Narcos? And just so you know, Narcos is not even that accurate.
No es que quiero generalizar, pero a veces las personas piensan que uno es de Puerto Rico o de México. A veces como que Centroamérica y Suramérica se pierden en el mapa, pero sí me gustaría que me identificaran como panameña. No que tienen que saber el acento, no me digas de dónde soy, pregúntame mejor quién soy.
The first, when people ask me where I'm from, oh, I'm or whatever about myself, I say I'm Latina, and people absolutely assume every time that I'm from Mexico, which is ignorance.
I remember, so I had a few Indian friends in high school, right? But they never really showed me they're part of their culture like that. And then I came to SLU, and it's very different here. At least a greater portion of the Indian population here are very proud of their culture. I know Ishu and Mina love sharing their food with us, and whenever I go in there, right, I make sure I tell myself, I'm like, them giving me their food is not them, this isn't just their culture, it's one portion of a culture, and I need to be respectful towards it.
I think most people assume that back home we don't have the things the U.S. does. So what do you do there for fun? I mean, the same things you guys do here. My roommate's parents, actually, when they first saw me, and they were like, I didn't expect you to look the way you do. And I was like, I don't know, I didn't even know what to say. And I was like, okay, thank you, sorry. So those are just common mistakes people make.
Creo que fue la primera semana de clase y se me acercan varias personas y me dicen, ¿hablas español? ¿Por qué hablas español? Y yo dije, porque soy de Panamá. Y dije, no, eres de Chicago. Creo que es por mi tez de piel, pero es como que eres así, eres de este lugar.
Yeah, I'd much rather that people ask me about my ethnicity, my religion, rather than just assuming I worship cows. We don't. Really don't.
I love when people ask. I mean, it shows that you're willing to learn. It shows that you're willing to have an open mind. If you have the right attitude. So don't come at me with your BS, and don't come at me with some shade, because that also happens. But I mean, I love when people ask questions.
I love when people get interested or just ask, because it shows that they care. I love sharing about my country. I adore my country.
I think that there are some that know what they're doing with their comments, but I think the vast majority they grew up around people like them, they are now exposed to people that are not like them, and they're trying to process it through a filter that has only taken in experiences similar to theirs.
I will give them a pass one time, because I understand that some of these people have never been exposed to anything outside of their comfort zone. So I will give you a pass.
Right.
One time. If I tell you it's racist and you do it again, you're racist.
Yeah.
You just are.
That's it.
When people come to SLU, this is the first time they see black people, work with black people, brown people, and they're not really cognizant or aware of certain microaggressors or certain comments, simply because that's just not something that they were confronted with back at home.
I just think people aren't educated enough, or aren't quote unquote woke. Cinco de Mayo here, it's okay, you can come out, enjoy, obviously, you're free to celebrate whatever, but at least know what you're drinking to, what you're celebrating to, you know, and then people change it as an excuse just to drink, Cinco de Drinko,
I think it's ignorance. I think a lot of people just don't make an effort to actually know about other cultures, and they make so many assumptions, and I imagine that I do the same thing with other cultures.
There are two sides of the spectrum. I think some people are genuinely naive but don't have any intentions to being racist. But some people are racist because they are very naive of different cultures. And I've had the experience to explain to other people about Middle Eastern culture and what it goes through, and it's definitely changed their perspective of Middle Eastern cultures. And they went from, I'm not saying I changed their whole perspective of racism, but it definitely made them a lot less racist than they were to be.
I don't think when people say certain remarks that they're straight up just racist. I think they're just being ignorant and trying to be funny. I mean, for me, I'm Colombian, and every time I say I'm Colombian, I always get the Pablo Escobar or the Narcos one. For them, it's they're probably trying to make a joke, but for me, it's the 100th time I get that. And to the point where it's I don't even care anymore. I'm just gonna laugh it up because I have no time to explain to them that no, Pablo Escobar is not my uncle.
If you're white, if you're wealthy, whatever, you're able to just kind of do this, where you put up your blinders and are just totally unaware. Or you start to pick up on things on campus that are said. There's a lot more like deeper connotations associated with that, and like people think it's funny and they just say it, but really it's just spreading hate about this community. It's really just harming you because you are not experiencing where you live, and you're also harming the community that's here.
Just knowing people from different ethnicities that go to SLU, I can definitely tell the segregation that goes on this campus, because I am friends with both the Middle Eastern communities, the international students, and the majority Caucasian communities at St. Louis University. I can definitely see that segregation. I feel like I'm just a middleman between that. One thing I've realized about SLU students, especially from the white majority, is that they're just very naive of different cultures and what they can do in relations to being inclusive to those foreign cultures.
I think getting to know other people from other countries, other cultures, other people in general helps to fight ignorance, which is my big pet peeve with society. When you know people from other places, you have a personal experience, a personal relation with whatever's going on in that place. Say, for instance, right now in Venezuela, or past events in Kurdistan. I know about these things, I hear about them, but I have a real interest and a desire to learn about them because it becomes a part of my life almost. It doesn't affect me per se, but I know people from these places and I want to know about the struggles that they've gone through.
If I have a friend who is an illegal immigrant, right, I'm going to care about that, right? Or if I have a friend who whose family fled Armenian genocide or like the civil war in Croatia or Bosnia-Herzegovina, I'm going to care about that because it has a direct effect on people that I care about. And that only can happen if you have people in your community that come from those areas. You're not going to get that if everyone at SLU is just all from the same area, because they're only going to care about issues from those areas.
I'm surprised that people at SLU are not very educated on what's going on in the political world. I think a lot of things have changed ever since we had our new president, and then a lot of things to the border and with immigration laws. And for me and my family, it kind of affects us. I'm always looking into it of what's going on today, because I feel like every day there's something new going on.
I don't think I had any expectations of the race of my friend group.
I don't know. I think for me, it's because I'm African. They assume we just immigrated. But when you look at my parents, they don't have accents. So it's middle class, but uneducated middle class. And then when you hear them talk, it's it's educated middle class.
I think less because of my race, more because I'm at SLU, they assume that I'm in a higher economic bracket than I actually am. And I think that in a way that the assumptions that they make are justified, because I make those same assumptions. I have, white, straight, male friends on campus that I look at and I'm like, you don't know anything about anything. You've just lived, you went to a Jesuit high school, went to a Jesuit university, lived in a giant house, or having your parents pay for your education. And it makes me feel bad to make those assumptions sometimes, but some of them, they're completely true.
I definitely think my identity as a Mexican American changed when I came to SLU. Going to a predominantly Latino high school, being Mexican wasn't really something that would set you apart, but here at SLU, being Mexican is the #1 way people identify me, and it's brought to my attention on a daily basis, so it ends up being something I think about a lot more often than I ever did back home.
My whole life, I've been considered as a foreigner, and at the age of 3, even though I was born in St. Louis, I moved to Jordan and lived there for 10 years. But in Jordan, I was always considered an American. I was classified as that. But at the same time, just because of my physical appearances, when I came to the U.S. in St. Louis, my friends also my majority white friends also did not consider me to be their particular ethnicity. I was also considered as a foreigner in their eyes.
That's how people know me sometimes. Oh, the Honduran girl, yeah. So, yeah, I've never felt, since I was born and raised in Honduras, I've never felt like being Honduran, separated me from everybody else, but here it definitely does.
I'm from the area of East Boston, where East Boston is known to be a predominantly Colombian neighborhood. I mean, back home, you can like speak Spanish, you can go to Colombian restaurants, you can embrace your culture listening to Hispanic music, whereas here, the only thing that I have that's like close to my culture is just Mexican restaurants and like Mexican people, and I was like, I mean, I'll take that, but it's not very, like, it's not a place where I could embrace my culture.
Pensé que iba a tener como más amigos americanos, porque es como un gran campus y pensé que, bueno, iba a poder llegar a más grupos y que la gente me iba a recibir mejor y iba a poder como tener como, además de los panameños, un grupo grande de americanos con quien hacer como, no sé, match, pero no fue el caso. O sea, me traté de meter en grupitos y es como cada quien al final busca su misma gente. Y de hecho, increíblemente, en vez de compartir con americanos en América, compartí con asiáticos en América.
Yeah.
Porque ellos sí nos abrieron de alguna manera los brazos y nos integraron a su grupo.
But all my friends happen to be Asian, or most of my friends happen to be Asian now, and I don't know if I naturally gravitated toward Asians because it was something that I was like lacking and just kind of needing, or if it was just like me being in a new area and not being able to transition as easily as I thought I would, so then I focused more on like making friends who were similar to me without having to like go out of my way.
I didn't really accept or resonate much with my Mexican American identity during my high school years, but I think once I came to SLU, there was a big void in my life because I wasn't surrounded by all my family and friends who were Hispanic, and that sort of forced me to go out of my way and find those people who reminded me of back home.
It's just difficult finding the right people who appreciate your values and appreciate who you are and where you come from, unless they're black or brown.
I definitely thought like I'm gonna make an effort to like be able to adapt to this white community, but I definitely said like to myself like I need to have a group of friends who I can speak Spanish with so that I can feel more at home and more comfortable, but I still have both. So my closest friends are Latinos, but I am friends with a white group, and I think that's very important because you gotta get involved and gotta get yourself out there. So
but a lot of people I've met over this past year, specifically from Panama in my job, it was just a lot easier to relate with a lot of students at my work, even though they were trying to learn English there. It was just easier sometimes to answer their questions in Spanish or just have a conversation in Spanish when they were feeling, maybe pooped out from speaking English all day. I know the feeling being over in Spain trying to learn Spanish all the time. But it's just another level of understanding, a level of...
I think it's really interesting when I'm walking down West Pine and I hear someone speaking Spanish and I look at them and I don't know them, and it's like, hey, we speak the same language, like, let's be friends, because there's, like, not a lot of us here. But, yeah, I think it's really cool, and it does open a lot of new opportunities.
I was talking to one of the campus ministry, and they were telling me that SLU used to have Spanish Mass, like, I think 3 years ago or 2 years ago. Obviously, it'd be great if they bring it back, but that's something that I didn't know we had.
Basically, from my experience, as I was like thinking about joining a fraternity, I was really demotivated and turned off by the fact that there were so many white people in a fraternity, because I mean, it kind of just feels like you're an outsider more than anything. You don't feel like you belong in that group. There's always still going to be stereotypes that are put on you regardless of what you try and do.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So there's a lot of different answers and opinions I have about Greek life. you know, if I felt like if I was going to join the, you know, the white fraternities, again, there was just a difference, I feel like, in background and economic status and a culture in those groups that I felt like I just was not going to fit in at all.
The reason why I joined the fraternity wasn't because of the Greek life aspect of fraternal life. The reason why I joined this particular chapter is because they accepted me into an environment that was, like you said, majority white. It really does depend on the chapter. Like, my chapter, obviously, despite my physical appearances, you know, like you go through a rush process, you talk to the actives, they get to know who you are, and it does not matter whether or not you're from Africa or you're from Latin America or you're from the Middle East. It does not matter.
I met the 3 other Hispanics on my floor, and I would always go around, we'd be speaking Spanish and laughing, cracking jokes all the time, and there would be many instances where other students on the floor would look at us weird, and it got to the point where we'd actually get complaints to the RAs because they felt, quote-unquote, unsafe or unwelcome there because we were speaking a different language. And I was actually asked to stop speaking that language in front of other people, and when that happened, I was extremely devastated because I could not understand how in a learning community where you're supposed to embrace and accept other people, you'd be asked to hide who you are.
I don't really know how diversity on the honors floor has really affected me, because
Do you think it would affect other students who are not white?
like coming into it, I think definitely. I feel that there's just an inherent thing of like, oh, no one else here looks like me, and then they have, at least in my experience, they always have a warning perception about how they're getting perceived by the majority, which is a lot bigger of an issue than how I'm being perceived by the minority.
For me, it wasn't necessarily a learning, living community. I did like being around people that cared about the same things that I did outside of school. Just being around like-minded people, I do think they do a good job of, but it's definitely true, and it's definitely well known among honor students that it's predominantly white, and most of the honor students are already pretty rich. So it's definitely a factor that I don't think is unknown.
Oh, I think it definitely helped me, especially because you're living with people who you have the same classes with, so that helps you a lot when it comes to, you know, academics and studying and everything. And also, like, because like, when you're in a learning community, most people have the same goals, especially mine, like going to med school or going to, like, dental school or something. So that creates, like, a bond immediately because you share common interests.
I'm Ethiopian, so I have to say this. You're good.
You're
Okay.
the point of contention.
Yes, we're getting to it. I am the most privileged black person on the planet. We've never been colonized, and I can't speak on slavery. Okay, my ancestors were sitting drinking coffee and dealing with the Italians, whereas everyone else was getting enslaved. The reason I bring this up is because as the only black person in majority of my public health classes, they expect me to speak on slavery, and that's something I cannot do. I don't like to speak upon, like, black issues. If I can, I will, but I can't speak for the entire population because I haven't experienced it.
If you're in a class where they're talking about like illegal immigration or something, it's kind of like, at least for me, like whenever that comes up, that's really awkward, you know, because people automatically assume that either you or your family have experienced that. You know, that's not always the case.
I don't know, I think that people actually get more interested when you're talking because you have a different point of view and you've actually, like, lived through it or know someone who has very closely. So I think that mostly I've gotten not a bad response from it. I imagine people are just more interested because it's a very different opinion, I guess.
If, like, we think SLU struggles with diversity, the business school is definitely at the top of that list. That's something where me as an Asian woman, it's been something where I definitely kind of noticed that a lot of my classes lean more male and definitely more white.
But I think it's really interesting when you're sitting in the classroom and the fact that you have to notice or realize that you're the only student of color is just something mind-blowing, because I'm pretty sure like those other students who are white, that doesn't even cross their mind.
So I was talking to some white people that told me that this university they'd never seen like an Indian person before in their life. There are 1 billion Indian people in the world, and they've never seen one.
That's scary.
1 out of every 7 people are Indian, and they've never seen an Indian person. To people like that, this university is crazy diverse. I mean, to everybody else, to colored people, we walk around, and most of our classes, we are
We're
the
the
only
only one.
person of color, unless it's a lecture class.
But one thing that I've talked to, especially to my majority Caucasian friends, is that they keep telling me that Indians or like Arabs or people who are dark in color are more likely to get into med school than Caucasian students, and I was somewhat surprised by that.
Yeah, so I've had this before, especially as a freshman, so people automatically assume that the only reason you're here at SLU is because you got like a full ride or something to come here, and you were the one few diversity or black or brown picks that ended up here at SLU, which obviously is problematic in itself. But
so I come from a low-income family. I'm a first-generation student. I think that for me, being a first-gen, it's a lot of pressure, because your family is always looking up to you. They're like, oh my God, Mateo's gonna be the first one to graduate.
For my family, definitely education is important. My dad's a graduate from Webster University. He also went to SIUE. I mean, the reason why I'm in investigating medical sciences pre-med and I want to pursue a career in global health is because I've experienced and I had the privilege of living in a different country and realized the quality of healthcare there.
My parents studied in Mexico, so technically I will be the first one to study here in the United States, so that's still a pretty big deal. It's kind of like, at least for me, it's never been a question of do I want to go to college, it's I'm going to.
Also, like, my parents worked so hard for me to come here so that I could, like, stand out when I go back home, because sometimes, like, you have to, I don't know, they just wanted a better future for me, and I'm grateful for the opportunity that I got. I'm definitely thinking about going back home, so just having, like, an American diploma that you went to college here definitely makes you stand out from the rest. Well, CALSA is the Caribbean Latin American Student Association. You don't have to be Latino, you don't have to be from the Caribbean to join. Anybody is free to join. Anybody who likes the culture or would like to know more about the culture is more than welcomed. But yeah, it's just about spreading diversity and inclusion, and for other people, especially on SLU campus, to learn more about Latin culture.
So HALO stands for Hispanic and Latinx Leadership Organization. So this year we're trying to recruit more people. I know that next year there's a higher percentage of Hispanics coming in, and we're just trying to grab them and you know, and make them feel like welcome to SLU too. What we do at HALO is we empower youth and students to like be aware of the Hispanic and Latinx culture. And no, you don't have to be Hispanic and Latinx to join HALO. Anybody can join.
The whole point of this club, Aspire St. Louis, was me and my roommate, Maddie Joplin. We both were kind of just talking about it one day, like, oh, like, did you know that the business school is like only 40% female, and et cetera, et cetera. So we want to start a club that is basically focused on diversity in the business world. We just want to be a safe space and kind of just a place for like minorities in the business world to congregate, because there's no club geared towards like this collaboration.
I personally think that soccer is a beautiful sport. No matter what culture you're in, what ethnicity you are, it's just a game that everyone in this world plays. For me, soccer has, as a St. Louis native, soccer has brought me a lot more into the international community. For example, I have good friends who are from Germany, who are from Mexico, who are from Albania, and the reason why I met these people is because of soccer. But yeah, soccer just brings anyone from the entire world together.
First of all, Bosnian population in St. Louis, soccer is massive. So there was one time at Vandy Field where I went down and there were like 4 or 5 Latino kids that after I talked to them are from like a school just south of here. So with me on like the opposite side of the field going like cambio, or like something like that. But you know, you don't really need that when you're playing. You just need your body language, and you need to be, you know, bright eyes and smiling and hand signals, and that's all you really need.
Definitely with soccer, FIFA nowadays, I've gotten to know a lot of people here on campus. People play soccer from the time they're kids up until when they die. So here in college, it's something we've all been doing individually throughout our lives. And now that we're friends or we're meeting these people, we come and do something we all have in common.
So hi, my name is Zarek, and I'm a senior graduating, and I would say that always be open to learning about other people, and when you learn about other people, I find that you also learn about yourself. So yes.
Don't be afraid to talk to people who are different from you, and also don't be afraid to learn new things about people you wouldn't otherwise interact with.
If you ever want to come talk to me about business, women in business, or Aspire, and you see me on campus, please stop me.
I'm Abby Katema. If you see me around, say hi. I mean, I look mean, but I'm actually a really sweet person. I'm usually studying all the time, but you can always interrupt us.
Hola, mi nombre es Andrea. Yo soy de Honduras y si tienen alguna pregunta sobre mí, sobre mi cultura, pues más que emocionada de compartirlos con ustedes, así que no duden en saludarme.
My name is Mateo. If you see me around campus, just come and say hi. I don't bite. I'm more happy to talk to you about anything about in Colombia, not narcos. It's not accurate.
My name is Sai Pitatala. I don't bite. Seriously, all jokes aside, you see me, come say something. Come say hi. You have any questions about people of color? I'll answer to the best of my ability. Namaskar.
Gracias a todos por ver este video. Me llamo Michael de nuevo y espero verlos prontos en el campus. Y si tienen cualquier pregunta o duda de la escuela o de Halo, no duden en preguntarme.
But I'm really excited to share my story with you guys. Let me know if you need anything. Don't be afraid to talk to me. You know, I'm a chill guy. Peace.
بونجور جو مابيل ديوراما هاز بدك تلعب معي قدم تعال احكي معي أنا بكون على الملعب.
Hi, my name is Brisa Garcia. I'm a senior and I'm graduating this semester. As you can see, there are so many students who are eager to get to know you, answer your questions, and talk to you about their culture. So it's really up to you to put yourself in that space and take that first step to getting to know them. Muchas gracias por todo tu tiempo. Espero que aprendiste algo de este video. Hasta luego.